Okay, let's bring in now Sky News host Joe Hildebrand and Steve Price.
Good evening.
Welcome to you both.
Lovely to be here.
Steve, so much to talk about, but I want to ask you about how the Prime Minister has failed to speak about anti-Semitism at federal caucus today, when we are all experiencing, every Australian, this wave of domestic terror.
It just beggars belief. I mean, it's extraordinary that the Prime Minister does not feel that he needs to come out and be as strong as he possibly can against this wave of anti-Semitism. It's almost as if, and you put it perfectly, it's almost as if he has convinced himself that somehow it's not real. I mean, surely, Prime Minister, you've been to the scene of the childcare centre, you've been to the synagogue in Melbourne. You must realise that this is now something that you've got to be a hell of a lot tougher on. I mean, you had the former Health Minister Greg Hunt, the former Treasurer Josh Frydenberg, again at the weekend, pleading with the government to do more. And what do? They just wheel out a few more twists and turns in their hate laws, and they're going to do some deal with the Greens, apparently. I mean, God forbid that. You've got Maureen Faruqi, who refuses to even condemn Hamas for what happened on the 7th of October. She's the one who's going to be negotiating on behalf of the Greens. I don't think Anthony Albanese gets it. I just think he's in this weird bubble in Canberra, and he somehow thinks that it's not happening. I don't know. I can't explain it. I can't.
Imagine speaking about optimism as being the tone, Joe, when that's not the reality in Sydney, Australia, irrespective of your faith or nationality or background.
Yeah, I mean, look, in terms of the PM's kind of personality, I've always said that his confidence and optimism is both his greatest strength and his greatest flaw, his greatest weakness. And I think there is probably a sense, certainly there is a problem in the cultural left, and there's a problem in, very large elements in the PM's inner West Sydney electorate, that there is just this completely bonkers counter-narrative that these people tell each other, like an ideological dogma, where everything you just said kind of almost didn't happen. They honestly live in an alternate reality. I'll give you an example. You showed the footage of the Hamas terrorists masked, crushing this poor hostage as they pushed through the crowds. I had someone who you just constantly, after every single column, whether it's about Palestine or Israel or not, will sort of, write in with all this sort of crazy propaganda, saying, how dare you, this is more media propaganda. Here these Hamas warriors were there protecting this poor hostage from the Palestinian crowds, and you think they're the bad guys? And I honestly, it sort of did my head in to try to figure out what on earth this person was coming from. It's one of those points, hang on a minute, are you a lefty or a neo-Nazi? And the thing is that these people end up in the same place. There was a famous case a few years ago where an actual neo-Nazi, a white supremacist, tried to join a Greens-sponsored function in favour of Palestine and against Israel, because they thought, oh, great, we're all on the same page here. So it's no wonder you have left-wing activists, Hamas sympathisers and neo-Nazis all responsible for these acts, because they're all on the same side.
It's insanity, it's irrational, and at some point, those sort of people have to acknowledge that they themselves are racist.
Their brains are just broken, and Labor needs to, and I think the scales are peeling off, but Labor needs to make sure, and there are plenty of people in the Labor Party who realise how bonkers and damaging and crazy they are.
It's not the whole Labor Party, because you can look at Premier Chris Minns.
That's right. It's just elements of the hard left.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the Prime Minister comes from the hard left, as does Penny Wong.